It has to do with just what is right in terms of administration. What has happened? Some of the institutions listed as being the beneficiaries of what the federal government is doing in fixing the roads in their institutions, including University of Nigeria, Nsukka, University of Benin, University College Hospital at Ibadan, University of Maiduguri, some of the newly established federal universities, as well as some polytechnics. That's to say also Kaduna Polytechnic and Bayo University in Kano. Simple question to ask. Every university or every such institution has a Department of Works that is responsible for the maintenance of infrastructure, including roads. At the University of Nigeria in those days, I mean, the Works Department was beside the Mass Communication Department. There was a road that, of course, bifurcated the two departments, you know. So what is it that the Works Departments are doing in the institutions? I mean, federal government is not going to fix internal roads in the universities. When will they start fixing the toilets?
Well, if you look at it again, in most states, you have a department or the Federal Ministry of Works in every state. But the roads are not maintained, and you now have the Federal Road Maintenance Agency coming across states to come and maintain roads. So it's a question of definition of schedules and making sure that resources are not duplicated.
All right, let's go quickly to the editorial for the day. And it is taken from the Guardian newspaper. It's captioned, National Assembly without Service Commission Board. A report about the non-constitution of the National Assembly Service Commission Board, which is said to be causing some disquiet at the National Assembly, is yet another story of how Abuja has become a sad story of executive and legislative procrastination. This is not inspiring. According to the report, the lawmaking body has been without a board in the last 2 months following the expiration of the tenure of the last board on September 4th, 2018. Whatever happened to the governance system has been overtaken by politics of 2019 elections. This is a paradox of development, as ordinarily those running for offices should run on the record of their service delivery efficiency. It is not a healthy development that National Assembly's presiding officers could not deal with its bureaucracy issue before the tenure of the 12 commissioners expired.
Well, I think the editorial is pointing to the fact that politicking is taking over some of the concerns of the immediate responsibility of members of the National Assembly. The National Assembly Services Commission, the editorial is now comparing it to the Judicial Service Commission as well as the Civil Service Commission as a very important administrative arm board that will direct the activities. And already the editorial in its lamentation is saying that there are several board responsibilities within the hierarchy and the bureaucracy of the National Assembly that is waiting the attention of the National Assembly Service Commission. And the absence since September, 2 months now, is a matter of concern. So I think it's drawing the attention of the legislators. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, as well as the President of the Senate, have always indicated that and their colleagues should not allow the exigencies of politicking for 2019 election to undermine their responsibilities as members of the National Assembly. I think this is a very timely reminder.
I mean, you can work on politics, you know, preparing for 2019 general elections and while also still doing your job.
Yeah, yes. It's a timely reminder.
Absolutely. Bayo, that's the much that we can take. I'd like to thank you for being around. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you, as always.
Okay, it's Good Morning Nigeria. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll be dealing with some of the public health hazards we are facing, namely preservation of food items, including the so-called sniper beans and a quick ripening of fruits through the use of carbide.
Unemployment, notably youth unemployment, features strongly in our party's manifesto. We intend to attack the problem promptly through revival of agriculture.
The 30K is going a long way. Actually, I bought an acre of land for 60K like 2012, and presently I have a cassava farm and a yam farm.
Reorganized, trained, and fully equipped, we are the new improved Nigeria Police Force. We fight crime. We bust syndicates. Whatever the crime, wherever the hideout, the Nigeria Police Force will get you busted. Stop kidnapping, armed robbery, murder, pipeline vandalism, and other criminal activities. Be productive. Be security conscious. Join the police force to secure your life and property. This message is from the Nigeria Police Force Public Relations Department.
You in the air-conditioned office with the itchy throat. Strepsils. Girl in the spotlight with the raspy throat. Strepsils. You in the pollution. Yes, you. Dry throat. Strepsils. Hello in the downpour with the scratchy throat. Take Strepsils. Strepsils, with its soothing medicinal ingredients, will heal the harm done to your throat from external factors. Strepsils. Strepsils. Strepsils, for a dry, itchy, raspy, scratchy throat.
Kehinde suffers from indigestion. His twin Taiyi suffers from heartburn. Sometimes it's the other way around, or both. That's why they use Gaviscon Double Action. It soothes within 3 minutes and lasts for up to 4 hours. For double relief from heartburn and indigestion, Gaviscon Double Action.
Team huddle. But we lost. Don't be tired, guys. This isn't a loss. It's a practice for winning.
Nothing makes a mother prouder than seeing her child growing up. But I know as he learns to lead, he'll face even more dirt, germs, and risk of illness.
That's why in changing seasons, you need strong Dettol protection. Because Dettol protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Growing up needs Dettol protection.
Madam. Brought us as usual.
As usual.
For the three
you are welcome, sir.
As usual, yeah.
You take that one. You don't understand? We want Nigerian homegrown rice. Finish. You don't have.
Join the rice revolution today.
No other rice that tastes like Nigerian rice. Are you sorry? That's the Nigerian rice we are talking about. Chocolate made in Nigerian rice. Healthy food. I'm going to bring Mrs. Momo to come to chocolate rice of made in Nigeria here. And see how it are made.
Correct.
How they are cook it.
Correct.
Homegrown rice are good for your health. It boosts our economy and give employment to our people.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Welcome back. If you just joined us, it's Good Morning Nigeria. We are reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now, for us to kickstart our conversation, let's join our correspondent, Kunle Adeyeye, with a backgrounder.
Food preservation is an ancient practice by farmers and even traders primarily to avoid wastage and retain nutritive values of food items. Over time, farmers have devised local means of preservation to keep the shelf life of their farm produce. Government eventually came up with silo construction initiative to preserve this farm produce, especially grains. Recent reports on the social media raised public outcry on the hazards in food preservation in Nigeria. a footage where some traders were seen making use of a particular brand of to preserve beans intended for unsuspecting consumers went viral recently. It generated reactions from many government agencies, including the Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Abuja, who said awareness will be created by the National Orientation Agency and state ministries of agriculture on the need for traders to desist from these acts. Other agencies waded into the matter. The Consumer Protection Council, CPC, advised Nigerians to extensively parboil beans before consumption. The National Agency for Food, Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, advised the sale of grains or beans suspected to be preserved with chemicals be reported to the agency, while also warning citizens against eating and buying foodstuffs and fruits preserved or ripened with chemicals. Experts explain that one of such compounds, known as dichlorophenyl dimethyl phosphate, is capable of causing diseases like cancer, kidney problems, and other deadly diseases. The questions to be asked are: what form of preservation should Nigerians make use of in preserving grains and fruits? How can relevant agencies ensure strict compliance by sellers to regulations by government? Guests on Good Morning Nigeria will provide answers shortly.
Thank you, Kunle Adeyeye, for that background report. Now, joining us in the studio to discuss food preservation hazards in Nigeria is the Deputy Director, Ports Inspection Directorate, the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, Carol Obele. Thanks for joining us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you. Good morning, Nigerians.
And also in the studio here in Abuja, we have the Coordinator, Nigerian Quarantine Services, Vincent Isekbe. It's a pleasure to have you join us on the program, Vincent.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
All right. Here with us also in the studios, we have Dr. Isaac Abuja. He's a public health expert. Dr. Abuja, pleasure to have you with us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning.
And last but not least, we have a lawyer with us. It's Legbosi Nweabu. He's head of legal, trade policy and advocacy of the National Association of Nigerian Traders. Nweabu, pleasure to have you with us on the program this morning.
Good morning, Nigeria.
Okay, gentlemen, let's begin a conversation straight away. You saw part of the video that was played back, an amateur video, by the way. It's been in circulation on the social media for a while, with regard to the application of sniper to the preservation of dry beans. This was taking place in an open market. Let's begin, therefore, by asking Mr. Nweabu, that's the Nigerian Association of Nigerian Traders, to give us a sense of what is happening in the markets with regard to the preservation of food items, particularly beans and other grains.
Yeah, good morning. The reality is that traders, farmers, and entrepreneurs in Nigeria, not new, but more prevalently have been getting involved in using additives, pesticides, herbicides, disinfectants, and the rest of it, mostly chemicals, to preserve food. We have those cases, though it has been informally going on, ranging from preserving of banana, plantain, several stuff, using chemicals that are not regulated, per se, to preserve food. And it happens in the context of mostly trying to preserve or trying to preserve their product for trade, as it were. And so they exceed what we normally call maximum residue level, because as producers, as farmers, as traders, there are required residue level of chemicals, pesticides, as it were, in plant, made available for international export. And so because there are no regulations, so to say, in this sector, they tend to either abuse or exceed the MROL requirement that is prescribed by the Codex Alimentaris, which is the international body that supervises international food standard and trade. So the reality is that we have that problem, and whatever pesticide or herbicide or
rodenticide that we apply on food items, it definitely affects human health as well. And so it's something that is a challenge, and it's being carried out by traders. When I say traders, in terms of small-scale traders, the informal sector, as it were, which is where the bulk of our consumption and food trade relates with.
Now, you say it's been going on for quite a while, and that's sad for us as a country, considering the health hazards. Is the association not worried? I mean, are you not doing anything to see how you can change it?
Yeah, we as an association, in our engagement with our traders, we keep encouraging them to do the right thing. But let me use this word. There is a disconnect between the level of literacy and food trade, as it were, because we have people, I mean, you see it all over the street, people carrying out, maybe they're selling fish on the street, okay? Most of these fishes, or fish as it were, are either enhanced by different chemicals, hormone boosters, as it were. And so, not that they are bad in the context of its application, but they don't have the requisite knowledge. There is no national policy, because ideally we should have what we call the International Code of Conduct for Pesticide Management, which we don't have in the country at the moment. And I think those are issues. So it should have been a matter of, okay, we are operating or we are doing this thing based on measurement, based on requirement, based on skills that are needed for them to do this thing. But they are not there. So it's a matter of maybe what would have used a cup to apply, they carry a bottle of it to apply. And so the need for proper engagement for regulators to relate with our traders is something we need to deal with, because it's a concern. We have been talking to our traders as well.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Nwiyabo. We'll come back to you in the course of the conversation. But you've raised a number of points, and I'm sure that the other guests will have the opportunity of responding to what you just said. If traders themselves have now turned out to become pest control officers and so on and so forth, if they have no requisite skill, why then would they be handling such potentially hazardous chemicals or other preservatives that we have seen? And this is quite clear, you know, and every day we all go to the marketplace and we see what goes on there. And of course, the public health expert is here with us to elucidate on the implications of what's going on. But in the first instance, let's bring in again Dr. Vincent Isegbe, who is from the Federal Ministry of Agriculture. He's the coordinating director, by the way. Dr. Vincent Isegbe, of course, I'm sure you have seen the video yourself, or you may have experienced it, quite aside from the sniper beans, so-called. We have seen cases of instances where there's the quick ripening of fruits, all kinds of fruits. You name the bananas, you know, plantains, oranges and mangoes, and you go to the marketplace, you're not sure precisely what you are buying. So what is it that we know about what is going on in our markets?
Thank you very much, and good morning, Nigeria. It's rather unfortunate that in this century, we're having issues like this. And I think principally it's about information. Because when I first watched the video on social media, I was, do I say embarrassed? I felt bad. Because the young man that was spraying the chemicals was spraying it happily. You could see the excitement on his face, which means he didn't know what he was doing, or that what he was doing was harmful to humans, invariably. As for the National Quarantine Service, we have been involved in advocacy, you know, letting people know exactly what they should do and what they shouldn't do. But I must tell you, what we are doing is not sufficient. NAFDAC too has lent its hand, you know, in informing people too, because we collaborate a lot in our work. So what we are saying is that these chemicals are prohibited. They are prohibited, and they should not be used on food items at all, by no means. But at the market level, you may begin to wonder, if they are not permitted to be used, then what should they use to preserve their items, their food items? That's really the question. Those food items, one way or the other, deteriorate because of pests. So there must be something farmers or marketers should use to preserve their chemicals before they sell. Now, those chemicals, because of lack of proper information, they are not being properly applied. Agro-pesticides are very good. In fact, they help to improve production by up to 4 times. But if it is wrongly applied, that's where the situation is. And that's why we're insisting that people should know exactly what to do. Now, at the farm level, research has shown from quarantine that it is very, very minimal at the farm level because the farmer has just produced his crops and he's about selling. So he will not want to add additional cost. So the adulteration with agrochemicals is at the point of warehousing, bulk purchase, warehousing, and then shipment for export. So we realize and we have done a lot of sensitization both in the local languages and Pidgin English, even through NTA, AIT, national radio stations, especially around the regional stations. But we think that generally everybody should be concerned because the regulatory agencies cannot do these things alone. If we notice that somebody somewhere is doing these things, then we should put it in check. I think the Traders Association has a primary responsibility of self-regulating themselves because like the gentleman lawyer said, observed, they know that these things are going on. There should be an association for bean sellers or grain sellers. There's a general association for the entire market. So if they begin to self-regulate themselves, it will help. Then the people who buy these beans, who cook, we normally advise that, be that as me, people must eat beans. But if you must eat beans, be careful whether there's any tint of smell of agrochemicals. But the general rule of thumb is that if you wash your beans, you cook it, throw away the first water. Parboil, throw it away again before you eventually cook. That is what I advocate as a safety measure, with or without chemicals, because we have found out that we may not be able to avoid this situation for a very long time. And that is what led to the suspension of Nigeria from exporting beans to Europe in the first place, because the levels of diclovos used in that chemical was above 100%.
Thank you very much, Dr. Isegbu. Well, I'm still staying with you. You know, you've talked about the issue of advocacy and how you've gone even as far as the grassroots to enlighten people. But again, here is my question. Why can't we find some of the culprits and punish them?
Well, that is good. Every agency of government has its mandate. The quarantine service does not have the mandate to go into the markets to arrest people. I think everybody should be involved. I wouldn't know which, maybe NAFDAC may have something to say concerning that because it's now at the market level. If they have that mandate, I don't know. But since we have a representative, she may enlighten us on that. But I think both the police, because in each of our regulations, if we find something wrong, we are duty-bound to involve the police to go and arrest such people. And if quarantine says, whether it's in our mandate or not, if we notice that in the market, I go to the market regularly, even ShopRite and other big shops, I do check fruits and whatever from time to time. And my officers, when they go there too, they check. And if we notice any infractions, we draw the attention of the management to such things. So I think both the general public, with the regulatory agencies, the traders themselves, we should collectively find out who are doing those things and then arrest them.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Isegbu. We'll return to you in the course of the conversation. Let's now bring in Caro Obele, who is a pharmacist and also Deputy Director at NAFDAC. You've listened to the comments by the other two guests, and I'm sure you've also seen the video, amateur video in circulation with regard to sniper beans and indeed other harmful practices with regard to the preservation of food items. What are your thoughts?
Okay, thank you very much. Let me correct the impression from one of my colleagues that said that there's no regulation in that area. There is regulation. NAFDAC is mandated to regulate chemicals, including agrochemicals. And they're doing that also by listing the chemical marketers. Anybody that wants to import chemical or manufacture in Nigeria, they should come to NAFDAC. And through the regulated processes, the right thing is done. And the marketers or the manufacturers, their products are registered. And for the users, if actually they go to the right dealers and purchase their products, then all the information concerning the right use of that chemical, they are listed and they will be educated on the appropriate application. The issue is that people don't ask for information, they go ahead and do whatever they like, get information from local people that are not even experienced. This chemical is supposed to be dealt with experienced people. And by ignorance, they now use it anyhow without asking for questions. If they are properly educated, some of these chemicals, if they are applied rightly, right application, there won't be much problem. But it's the wrong application that is going all along due to lack of information, applying directly to the products, as we have seen, is not supposed to be applied directly to the products. In the first place, the use of chemicals might not even be necessary if there is good agricultural practice. But when chemicals is very, very necessary, they should be used to fumigate the facilities and not on the products. And after spraying on the facilities, there's what is called withdrawal period, which they should wait before stocking their products. And these products, if they are produced in a good way, going along the value chain, starting from seed, planting, processing, warehousing the correct way, and then bagging. Something like these beans, they are advised to pack it in airtight containers. There's this PIC bags, that's 3-layered bags. If they put their beans there, it can last up to 1 year. They don't need to spray. So that is lack of information and ignorance. And on the part of NAFDAC, what we are doing now is to sensitize people. We have already started, longest time, sensitizing the marketers, the market people, the traders, the farmers. And also, we are also training our staff in all the 36 zones of in all the 36 states of Nigeria to sensitize farmers too in that area on the appropriate use of chemicals and then the right chemicals. The right chemicals that are registered with NAFDAC, if they should include, they can identify it by, first of all, it has to have NAFDAC registration number. The full manufacturer's address or marketer should be there. The labeling instructions, detailing how to use, and also the dilution factor. Some of them, they use it in concentrated form, and that is what is causing the problem. Diclovers, the trademark, Sniper, is their other trademarks, but diclovers in question, that's the 2,2,4 dichlorophenyl dimethyl phosphate. It's organophosphate. Is approved actually, but it should not be used directly on the grains. And then, yes, it should not be used directly on the grains. It can use to be, just like I said before, to fumigate where the product should be stored and wait for the withdrawal period before using it. And then while you are using it, while you are applying it, you should guide yourself with appropriate apparel so that you can, because it destroys the body or it gets to the body by inhalation, by contact with the skin, So if you wear the appropriate apparel and then including face masks or self-containing aspirators, breathing aspirators, to help so that you won't inhale it.
Now,
So,
you've talked
yeah.
about so many issues
Yes,
with
yes.
some jargons that many people would not understand. Let's go straight to the so-called sniper beans issue. Tell us about your investigation and how you're responding to it at the moment.
Okay. Yes, we've investigated and we found out that they're being used wrongly. And those people that we are caught, we are kind of punished. Then, sensitizing them, we have started, just like I said. So we've been sensitizing them. Then the manufacturers and also the importers, we monitor them by going through their distribution records to ensure how they are using it, where it's not actually supposed to be sold in open market. So
where are those who are buying it getting it from?
Where are they what?
Where are they getting it from? Where do they go to buy it?
They are not, definitely they are not buying it, most of them are not buying it from the dealers. So some of them might even be smuggled.
The products we're talking about, they are openly they are available over the counter, just as you have some pharmaceutical products. They are available over the... Let me just ask before we bring in the public health expert. Is NAFDAC in the marketplace?
It's not really our job to go to the market because NAFDAC deals with processed, semi-processed, packaged, and labeled products. However, once in a while, all these products we have registered will go to the market for post-market surveillance to sample and see whether they are complying. But for beans that is not packaged, sold in the open place, it's not really NAFDAC job, but for the sake of the health of the public, we collaborate also to go inside the market and then sensitize people on that.
So if a product, let's say grains, for instance, if such a product doesn't have NAFDAC number, it's not the business of NAFDAC, whether it is rice, whether it is sesame seed, whether it is gari or otherwise. We'll come back to you, Mrs. Carol Obele, with regard to what other policy options are available. Let's bring in now Dr. Isaac Egboja. Dr. Egboja, of course, you listen to the other guests, articulate the various ramifications of this problem. There are a number of issues on the table. One, the use of pesticides and other potentially harmful chemicals on food items. And then, of course, what we also find with regard to fruits, as I said, I mean, Joy and I, while we were bantering at the beginning of the program, said, I've seen the video of a young lady, who took green-backed garden eggs, put them in some liquid, and within the matter of, within a short interval, it turned out it was all golden. I don't know what that means, and somebody's going to, of course, buy that, wash it, and then start working. What are the hazards?
Many hazards. These chemicals potentially are killers. What do? They kill the cells in the body. They cause nervous problems, central nervous problems. When you hear insecticide, herbicide, the side means kill. That's what it means, kill. Either they slow down the biological, physiological processes in the body, or they outrightly kill the cells. And there are other effects they have that we may not notice immediately, like mental problems. A child, for example, who is continuously exposed to spraying, this sniper you're talking about, which in the local language you call it otapia, it's the same chemical. After a while, that child may have mental problem, intellectual problem. You will not notice immediately because you cannot observe the cells growing in the brain of this child, for example, or of this person. But with time, nature is such that nothing is at a standstill. Everything you see is moving. is acting in some way. And when you slow down or you eliminate or you stop that natural process, something goes wrong. In the case of these chemicals, what they do is they kill the cells, like I said. Why do they preserve food in the first place? What they do is they kill whatever it is that will make the food go bad, that will spoil the food. That's what it does. By doing that, when you take it in, it also kills the cells in your body. And of course, they're carcinogenic, meaning they cause cancer. There's none of them that is not. All of them, they are all carcinogenic. Even the preservatives that we have in Indomie, you recall now that Indomie, the liquid they put now is a little different from what they used to have. At the beginning, they had one that had sodium glutamate, very, very concentrated. And when you go to the shops also to buy food, you discover some of the foods in tins, bottles, and cans are soaked in preservatives. Go to any of the supermarkets and buy olive, for example, olive fruits, for example. And you take it out and smell it. Or soak it in a little plain water and leave it for about 10-15 minutes. Go back and see the color that is left behind. Go to the market and see some of the food, of the meats that are preserved with these chemicals. Much that you might think that they're useful, you have to look at what it is that you benefit from them. Shouldn't it be better that you don't even use them? I think it is. In the case of the sniper beans that they're talking about, I am not quite impressed with the reaction of the public and the regulating authorities. Yes, I agree. NAFDA cannot do everything. And I agree, too, that their job is easier when things are bottled, labeled, and so on, so they can say, where is the label, where is the number? But I think that they should also be able to go to the market and catch these people and say, why are you using this chemical? Because that's what food and drug, and this is food. Does food mean when it is bottled? Does food mean when it is packaged? Food is food. And when we were growing up, they had agents that used to go to the markets, and if they see you with rotten meat, for example, they will seize it from you. They go to butchers. If they find that a goat was slaughtered after it had died, they just cut the throat to let the blood out. Or the skin of the goat or the meat looks bad, they seize it from the woman who is cooking. And I remember very well 2 or 3 times in the market in my village where they forcefully took the pot of soup from a woman and went and poured it away. She cried, of course, but that's nothing. There was nothing she could do more than that. These people were authorized to regulate. I would recommend that we still train environmental health experts. There are some of our institutions are training now. I do not know how soon they will graduate or if some have graduated, but we need them in the markets. If there were such people, this type of things can be taken care of right there at the spot because that's their duty. They will be authorized to do so. And I'm recommending that the agencies that are in the forefront of this type of activities should not depend on the police. The police is as ignorant in this case as anybody else. How does the police know what level of chemical should be used and what level should not be used? The average police is just like the average person that we are. And I don't think that this is a case for them. The police will come in when somebody has died because now you have committed murder or homicide if it is in your house. But the police will not come in because somebody is, even if you are vomiting in the market, after ingesting apple, for example, or banana, and you call the police will have hard time establishing a case. So I think that those who are taught, those who are knowledgeable, those who are experts in this field should go in. The health hazards are so much that we cannot ignore.
Dr. Abuja, I mean, now that you're explaining some of these things, tell us some more, apart from the chemicals, the quick ripening of fruits. There's something they call carbide. I know that that's some foul-smelling substance like this, which you normally see amongst panel beaters and so on and so forth. They use it to ripen bananas, to ripen plantain, and so on and so forth. What is the effect of that? That is one. Secondly, I've also heard, and I'm sure Joy and the other guests with us on the studios, you have also heard this. When you go to the butchery, that's to say the meat seller in the market, people will tell you that when you don't see flies perched on the meat, don't buy it because they have used formaldehyde, what they use to preserve dead bodies also. Don't touch it. Sometimes you see some of the meat looking yellow. You know, I don't know how they preserve it. No flies, no nothing. But they'll say, don't buy that one. That is the one where you see flies, and you know the hazards that, of course, flies are vectors of all kinds of potential disease. What is it that the public faces in terms of health issues arising from these apparently unwholesome practices?
On the short run, death, they could die. On the medium term, mental retardation, intellectual retardation, because they are related. On the very long term, cancer, all of them. There is none that is not carcinogenic, not one. And so when you take them, like the apples we eat now, I'm very worried. When somebody brings apple to you and it's looking extraordinarily beautiful, be careful. Like the case of banana you're talking about.
Banana too.
Yeah. When they apply these things, what it does is it speeds up the process of changing. You know, banana normally, it starts with lemon color to green color to very deep green color. And then from that deep green, it changes gradually to orange color. Gradually. It takes about 1-2 weeks if you're observing your banana in your house. I mean, on the tree. Somebody comes and in a matter of hours, it becomes orange color, yellow color. You know that something is wrong. Anything that speeds up this kind of process that is not natural does the same too when it's in your body. What does that mean? That means that the cells in your body are supposed to be growing in a particular manner and at a particular pace ordained by nature, by Father God. When you come now and you tell them to go fast, of course they go wild. What is the name of that wild? Tumor. What is tumor? Cancer. And what is the ultimate result? Death. So from the public health point of view, these things should be banned. And I'm begging and urging NAFDAC to please, I know they don't have enough staff. I know their job is easier when things are already packaged and they can say, where is her number? But I think, too, that when they say things like the one we've just seen, they should go in. Because the law protects them from acting or enables them to act. Nobody is going to say, why are you doing this, NAFDAC staff? This is their job. It's food and drugs. And food is food, whether it is sold as beans in the market, measured or packaged or bottled. It is the same food.
Thank you very much, Dr. Isaac Abuja. You've raised so many salient issues. Now, I want us to go back to Dr. Vincent Isegbe. I remember in your opening statement, you talked about the challenge we have in our hands, and there's a need for us to work collectively to solve this situation. Now, how can the relevant regulatory agencies work together to ensure that we address this problem immediately?
Thank you very much. We're actually working together. Let's say the case of the beans. There are so many government agencies and even international agencies in the country that we are partnering with, to ensure that, we resolve this matter. Principally heading that team is the Nigerian Agricultural Quarantine Service. And UNIDO is there, in the issuance of code of conduit of excellence. It's a process. Other agencies of government are there, and we are collaborating. What I think we should do as a nation is this, that first and foremost, we should say no to some of these things. See, the problem is not about regulation. The regulations could be in place, but if you still want to break the laws, you will still break it. Now, the issue of meats and tomato and whatever that is the market that we're talking about, I keep advocating in any forum that I find myself. I said, if you go to buy tomato and they put tomato on the bare ground, maybe with cement bag on the ground, they get water from somewhere, sprinkle on it, why do we have to buy it? If you say, I won't buy, the next customer comes, I won't buy. The third one comes, I won't buy. The man will begin to ask himself, and you'll be telling him, why? The tomato is put on the ground, I won't buy. The meat on the table that is, like you mentioned, flies all about, I won't buy. Put it on the table, probably with a wire mesh or cabinet or whatever. And by the time people troop to the man who puts his own on that cabinet, glass cabinet or whatever, net cabinet, and he's making good business, nobody needs to tell that man, the other person, that he should go and change his method of selling food items. Because the Nigerians patronize them, they find ready market, so people make their money without necessarily investing in the business. We all go overseas, we see even vegetables, how they sell vegetables overseas. They are standard, you see cold air, you know, over those vegetables, they are clean, they are neat, and you will buy them. But here, we patronize everything because it is cheap, and we don't want to spend money, you know, to safeguard our health. So I think we must necessarily, as a nation, say, look, we don't want this. This is what we want. Then the local governments who are putting these stores, they have a role to make sure that those stores are standard. Most local governments are interested in giving you land space, meter by meter. You just go there, whatever you like, you put there. But thank God for some state governments and some few local governments are now building standard markets where people can display their things. That is one aspect that we must necessarily look at. The other issue is, as a nation, let's agree to report. We must necessarily agree that whenever we see something wrong, we must report. Why I mentioned earlier on that we need the assistance of the police is that by our individual regulations, we don't carry gun. So for the populace to see that element of government enforcement, we carry police along. Like of recent, when we had the issue of this hibiscus, we realized that people were spraying water, soaking hibiscus so they can gain weight. In some cases, you'll be surprised, they put 1 or 2 pieces of stone in the hibiscus so that when they weigh it, the kilograms will be high. And we have engaged the police, you know, to go around the local markets together with the Hibiscus Exporters Association in those states, and they're arresting people. Now they're becoming serious. Nobody wants to do that because nobody wants to be arrested.
Yeah, Dr. Shekwe, thank you very much. Of course, I know that you also brought in the perspective of the export market, along with pharmacist Obele, who's also talked about the import and export market. Our principal concern this morning actually has to do with our domestic production and consumption. In other words, we have first to be alive before we can be thinking of what we are going to export. I know, yes, we have had challenges with regard to some of the products that we are seeking to export, but you've raised a number of very valid points, of course, along with the other guests. You talked about the role of the citizens themselves. You talked about the role of local governments and how we can be reporting much more effectively. But I think that from your perspective, what is the level of interaction that you have with the other tiers of government? Because it appears, for instance, that local governments have no role in the marketplace other than perhaps to construct the stores and then start collecting daily rates. And of course, they are very effective at that. So what role would you therefore like to see them engaging much more forcefully? I don't know whether they still have sanitary departments in the local government areas.
Yeah, there's supposed to be a department of, is it community health or something health, you know, that are at the local government levels. At the same time, you made a very cogent point that it is what you produce, actually, that you export. So whichever way. And I equally say, too, that we should not be emphasizing on having good quality products for the export market and then not concentrating on the local ones. Well, of course, you and I will have to survive first before we think of exporting. So it's a chain. It's what we have locally that we eventually export. The emphasis we are drawing people's attention to is the fact that, look, it's like as a nation we are used to these things. So when we come with the export standards, we kind of open their eyes to what other people are doing that is better than what we are doing. So the message sinks better when you tell them, look, this one cannot even go for export because it's not good. This one cannot go. Then the person will begin to wonder, why are others insisting on good quality food and we Nigerians don't want good quality food or we're not practicing it? So we use that as a catch, you know, for them to know that, look, it's like as Nigeria, we are left behind, though. Others are doing this thing well. So learn to do it well so that eventually, whatever it is, somebody else comes, he will know that as a nation, we are doing well. That's, that's why we use that catch. Concerning how we can do that better, yes, we need to collaborate. Like I said earlier on, there's no way quarantine service can do it alone. There's no way the traders can do it alone. We actually need to go to the field and challenge, in quotes, the Traders Association. NATS, Nigerian Association of Traders, is a very strong association. I think with this exposition now, we are going to engage the executives. We've been engaging at the grassroots, but let us engage the executives and let them now use their powers of being the organizers or the administration of that association to be able to do exactly what they are supposed to do. So we'll increase our advocacy, you know, at various levels along the value chain. We'll let them know what the international regulations are so that it can apply to Nigeria. And my brothers, let me just mention something here. While Nigeria is battling with maintaining the minimal residual level of 0.01 milligrams per kg for diclovos, at the last meeting we had in China, they're already thinking of bringing it to half, which means that it's going to be 0.05 now. Meanwhile, we're battling in Nigeria to attain 0.01. So you can see that they are making progress to ensure that they limit the level of contamination in our local foods. And I think, as a country, Nigeria, we must wake up.
All right, we want to thank you very much, Dr. Vincent Isegbe, the coordinator, Nigerian Quarantine Services. We understand that you have to leave us now. We thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
All right, it's still Good Morning, Nigeria. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll continue with our conversation. Stay with us.
These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored, and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous. Whether you do it for fun or for political gains, real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTA. Nigerians. Suicide bombers are not spirits. They are not ghosts. They are human beings like you and me. They live amongst us. They are your neighbors. They are your friends today, but terrorists tomorrow. So you must know your neighbor now. Security begins with you and me. Know your neighbor. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me.
If you see something, say something. Nigeria, unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Thank you for staying with us on Good Morning Nigeria. Now, before we get back to our guests in the studio, we have tweets from those who have joined us online, and we'd like to read a couple of them to you. Kingsley.
All right, Festus Akimboyewa has this tweet. It says, government at all levels must urgently raise awareness on the dangers of using toxic chemicals to preserve food, and anyone using these deadly chemicals on food must face the full wrath of the law.
And the next one is coming from Oladimeji Morufu. Those that are in charge of food preservation are not up to the task. No proper monitoring on delegation. They act on feedback. They ban importation of some food items, and there are no functional silos to preserve our agricultural products.
Now, Otega tweets that government must ensure that Nigerians know the importance of preserving food for healthy purposes, freezing, drying, canning, water baths, and room with cool storage, and dehydrating.
And the next one is from Dele Jack Solomon Medj. He tweets, there is a need for the Ministry of Agriculture and other relevant agencies to embark on enlightenment programs on how to contain the spread of mycotoxins. The farmers have to be told what to do. In particular, this is where the Nigerian Agricultural Quarantine Services must sit up.
And Mike Ayankwo tweets, it says, food preservation is a very serious challenge in Nigeria. We lack the capacity to preserve our foods and food items. This has led to loss and waste of investment. Some, in order to preserve food or food items, by all means, use some harmful substances, like the ones used in preserving dead human remains. Human remains cannot be alive now. All right, and this is hazardous.
All right, we still have one more from Dele Jack Solomon Medj. It says, thank you, NTA Good Morning Nigeria, for bringing this topic up for discussion today. Between 2015 and 2017, the European Union, citing poor quality, contamination, and the presence of high levels of chemical used in preservation, banned 67 processed and semi-processed foods from Nigeria.
Yeah, that's what we are eating back home.
Terrible.
Absolutely. And this is coming from a handle that says, calls himself Atiku. Of course, this Atiku comes with an H. A-T-I-K-U-H. He said, I see why I always sleep in the washroom, that's the toilet, anytime I eat beans.
All right, the next one is coming from Jesse Chinex, J. And it says, most of all, individual and traders involved in this action shouldn't be punished because they are ignorant about the effect of this chemical on the farm produce. There should be an enlightenment on how this chemical should be used. Should they not be punished, Kingsley?
Well, that's the alibi there of ignorance. Mostly.
But is that an excuse?
Well, not necessarily, but public enlightenment is perhaps the first step, as our guests have been saying. Now, Suleiman Babagana tweets, says, NAFDAC should go back to the drawing board on creating awareness to the public on hazards such as food toxic preservatives, on the hazards of toxic preservatives on food.
The next one is coming from Jummai V. Tabak. Nigerians should go to the market nationwide to check all the beans mixed with chemicals. There must be sensitization. I'm just wondering, when she says Nigerians, is she referring to the regulatory agencies?
That's right. Of course, when you are buying your beans and your grains, otherwise, sometimes you don't want to spend the entire day in the market. The marketplace in Nigeria is not a particularly comfortable place to be in the first instance, especially during the rainy season. Everywhere looks like a pigsty.
That's right.
You know, and this is from Kachala Mala. It says, and that's why the issue of the local governments is very important.
That's
right. What is it that local governments are doing with regard to, is their constitutional responsibility, if you check out the 4th schedule to the Constitution. Kachala Mala has this tweet. It says, general ineffectiveness of agricultural produce services at the state level also helps in creating these problems.
Okay, this one is from Suleiman Baba Ghana, and he tweets, dependence on imported foods can be reduced by reviving dormant industries, thereby checking the use of toxic chemicals.
All right. Festus Akimboyewa, sad that Nigeria may experience major outbreak of food poisoning because of toxic chemicals like sniper used to preserve food items like beans and carbide used to accelerate the ripening of fruits. Regulatory authorities must be proactive and stop contaminated food from getting to our markets and ultimately to our tables.
Dele Jack Solomon Merge is active this morning. Here is one more from him. On food preservation in Nigeria, what is NAFDAC doing in making our agricultural products safe for consumption beyond just labeling processed foods with the manufacture and expiry dates? How often do the officials visit markets to check the safety of food items on display in outlets?
Now, this is from Mohammed Usman. Mohammed Usman says, we in the North are the most vulnerable to be affected by such harmful practices. Come and see otapia being sprinkled on smoked fish, rat bomb thrown into a bag of beans.
Oh.
Now let's bring in the representative of the Nigerian Association of Traders Association. You have listened to the tweets, you have also listened to the guests. These are daily experiences that people go through. Listening to all of this now and hearing the complaints and indeed just a bird's eye view of the hazards, health hazards that we all face. What does this now mean for your association?
Yeah, it's not peculiar to our association, as we have all agreed here as well. It's a public health concern. But it will interest you to know that WHO have also given a global estimate of about 3 million pesticide poisoning in the world, resulting to about 220,000 deaths annually. And so it's not a peculiar problem, but like NAFDAC have equally said, the issue now is how do we get traders, farmers on the right application of this. I mean, it's not peculiar. It is like...
I'm sorry, I mean, you keep saying it's not peculiar. We're concerned about our public health issues and not whether or not people elsewhere in the world are dying from this. Nigeria's population is almost 200 million, and these practices we're talking about are happening right in our markets. So if it's not, what is peculiar to us is what we are seeing.
Now when we say market, market comes in different forms, okay? It comes in the open market, we've also agreed. If you're interested to know, let me inform us, as it were. There is no northern farmer. When I say northern farmer, I say there is no Nigerian farmer in maize, in rice, in grains that do not apply herbicide pre-planting. It's a practice. They use different chemicals. Herbicide, as it were, before, that is for killing of unwanted weeds. They apply disinfectants. They apply different kinds of chemicals, pesticides as it were, before planting and even post-harvest. So these things happen at different levels. And we are saying it is bad. So as a trader association, we are not at the farm level of, the farming season, when these herbicides are being applied to crops. We are not there. Our concern, or where we can notice this thing, is when it has arrived at the farm gate, at the market stores, which is the one we are now visible about. What of the ones that happen at the farm level?
Now let's deal with the one at your own, the one that happened at your own
level. At our own level, we are doing our own work by engaging our traders, by telling them, look, these chemicals has application plans, where and how it should be applied. Now, like we have also agreed, and I said earlier, illiteracy is a concern because these chemicals are sold, like we have all agreed. They are available. They are available. Agrochemicals are available. Like NAFDAC have equally said, there is a list of about more than 100 of these agrochemicals approved by NAFDAC in the country. And they are there. They are not in their context prohibited, as it were. And so when they get it, it's about measurement. What are the measures required for what quantity? And so if they exceed those quantities, it is bound to have effect not just on human, but also on our environment. So we keep engaging our traders, do the right thing. In fact, recently we did a program in Ebonyi on packaging and weight and measures, also encouraging our traders and small-scale farmers to know the basic measurement requirement for certain products and how to go about it. So like we've all, agreed by consensus, it's about enlightenment. It's about engaging our traders and small-scale farmers to know the right measurements for these chemicals, how to apply them, and then also, like it has been said, we are recommending very strongly, which I'm sure with every certainty that we don't have in the country. The International Code of Conduct for Pesticide Control and Management has to come in a policy phase where people, both from the producers of these agrochemicals and the market and traders, farmers, how to go about handling it and how to control its application. It's something we need to do.
So in terms of engagement, your association is very active at the state and local government levels, because this is not about the federal capital.
We have chapters in the whole country.
So why are these harmful practices still taking place? That's the NAFDAC deputy director here has already said, listen, if you need to apply any of these chemicals or substances, you should use it in the room where you want to preserve those grains or whatever you want to preserve, and then not to immediately introduce the bags that you have into the room. You need some expertise in doing this. Unfortunately, you have not quite explained to us, and indeed to our viewers, what steps your market Traders Association will be taking to help curb this. It is not just with grains. We talked about meat, we talked about fruits and all kinds. Yes. If you were to get up from the studios now and go to any of the major markets in Abuja, whether at Utako, whether at Garki or elsewhere, what we are discussing now, these are things you would find in the open. So these are the hazards that people face every day. And as the doctor has said, items coming from these places are the things that we ingest. If you are careful in avoiding these things, you go to a party, you don't know how they got the items from. They cook for you, you eat, and then the next day, as the gentleman was saying, you are in the washroom. So let's bring in again the NAFDAC Deputy Director. What can be done much more effectively and speedily to ensure that this problem is taken head-on and people begin to realize the dangers that we all face?
Okay, thank you very much. Going by what Vincent said the other time, that there's need to ban those products. Actually, calcium carbide is used in an industry. It should not be used in ripening of food. But they use it because of quest for money. They want to make it fast. And the gas there, when it reacts with water, produces what mimics the real genuine process of ripening food. But that one, the chemical is very toxic. In fact, it's accumulative. And over a time, it causes breakdown of the whole body system. Kidney, liver failure, heart failure, coma, and even death. Then, one of the tweets said that EU banned 67 items. EU banned only beans from entering their country because of this issue of diclovers until we get it right.
And are you worried about that?
Oh, very much.
So what is NAFDAC
then,
doing?
coming now on the collaboration, the effective way to tackle all this is all about engagement of Nigerians, just like I said. Nigerians, those that import, those that manufacture the chemicals to distribute it the right way. Then, the traders themselves, we have association, and we have their president and their secretary. And in the market, they are very effective in organizing themselves. So they also should go into sensitizing these people, because when NAFDAC is sensitizing on a bigger level, it's not all market people that come. But the representatives of these various associations, they come. And what they learn, they need to cascade and very active in effecting it, supervising them. And if there is any information as to who is not obeying or still using the wrong one, of course, NAFDAC is not everywhere, but you can contact NAFDAC. NAFDAC is not states of the federation, and we can come and enforce and do other things. aside the fact that we are also going to this market, to sensitize people. So it's the holistic engagement on the side of consumers too. If you want to buy these beans, these chemicals, they smell. So if you buy the one that are smelling, or at times they even wrap it in a rag and put inside, don't use it. And also help and educate the other people around you. And if you want to cook it, just like one of the guests said, you have to wash severally. Rinse it severally before you cook. So by engaging all of us, you is our neighbor that do the wrong thing. And you know these neighbors. So if you know the neighbor that is doing the wrong thing, report to us, report to NAFDA or any regulatory authorities. On the federal level, we are also collaborating with quarantine, with other CPC, So collaboration is for everybody. We have to be our neighbors' keepers. On that note, that's when we will effectively tackle this.
You have a lot of work to do. You've talked so much about engagement. How often do you engage them? And in terms of follow-up, how often do you do that?
Okay, we do that. Of recent, we have even done 2 sensitization with stakeholders. Stakeholder consultative meetings and also sensitization. We did one in September, we did one in October, and it's ongoing. Who were the
stakeholders? That's right. When you say stakeholders, who are you?
Market women, Traders Association. I don't know whether you attended the one we held in Lagos. And we're also going to have another one in December.
Do you go to the states? Apart from Lagos, do you go to like the states and local government
we did one in some parts of northern Nigeria. So, but federal, we go to states. So the people we invited, their representatives also need to cascade down, like their president, because we ensure we invite the representatives for such associations.
All right, thank you very much. I'm sure that Nigerians, some Nigerians will remember what happened in the mid-90s when Colonel Marwa was still military administrator of Lagos. The so-called toxic beans that was reported to have been in circulation in Lagos. There was quite some panic amongst members of the public. It took the effort of the governor and indeed other persons, to mollify the anxiety that members of the public had. And I remember Marwa then making a show of going to an akara seller, that's a bean cake seller, and buying akara and then eating. Marwa, of course, is still alive today. But the hazards of what we are seeing now, the intensity of what we are seeing, the widespread nature, is such that the concerns that Dr. Abuja raised should be one that will continue to occupy our attention. What is the role or impact, if any, of cooking on these chemicals that have been used, to preserve these grains, if any?
Some, not too much. If you take contaminated beans, for example, with chemicals, and you cook it and you eat, the cooking doesn't kill the chemical. The washing would get rid of the chemical, but not the cooking in itself. Cooking helps when you are talking of organisms. You kill, you boil or you raise the temperature to kill the organism. You don't raise the temperature to kill the chemical. Some chemicals will be deactivated. Some will even become more deadly by boiling them. But let me say this. We have this habit of saying we are doing this. We have done so much. Everybody praises himself. Nobody says we need to do more. That is one of the problems that we have. We rationalize too much in this country. This problem is not peculiar to us, but that is also not peculiar to us. But we are dying more than other people. Our population in Africa is almost, we are 1/4 of the African population. So whatever is happening in Nigeria should be taken seriously. Let me ask, for example, like the case of this incident in the market. You ask, how many people were arrested? How many people have been arrested? Traders Association, how many people have you punished? How many of your members have you punished as a deterrent? How many of your members have you reported? I'm not accusing anybody, but I'm talking as a concerned doctor. NAFDAC, how many people have they arrested? How many people have been punished? For me, it is not just we are doing so much. We are doing sensitization. What is the concrete action? How many cases did you deal with last year, for example, in the markets? This year, for example. Recently, when this thing happened, since then, how many have been arrested as a deterrent to others? When you ask these specific questions, there are no answers. So to me, we need to do more. But let me say this as a Nigerian. Aside from the fact that we like to push blames to other people, calling on the government, for example, government should do this, government should do that, government at federal level, government at state level, government at local government level. Yes, I agree. The government has roles to play. But who is government? Are we not all government? And by the way, the best police is not the police with uniform and badge number. The best police is your conscience. If you know that this thing can kill somebody else or can kill you, why are you selling it in the first place? Why don't you worry of the fact that you are destroying a life? Why don't you worry about the fact that you are harming somebody else? Why should we always have to wait until it is the police with the uniform? How about the police that is your conscience? Why doesn't it do its own arrests? These things are more fundamental to me in these kind of cases than the official police, the official agencies, and the sensitization that we are talking about. I'm not sure that if you go to my village now, they have heard of any NAFDAC sensitization. I'm not sure they have heard of any Traders Association sensitization. Unfortunately, in every area of Nigeria, there are markets. That's right. There are markets. There is hardly any place, any village you go that they don't sell something, or they don't gather to sell something. Randomly doing something would send a message. Right. How much are we doing that? But let me point out this quickly. Like I said before, what is of most concern is if you go to the hospital and see the number of people that are sick, that have multiple organ problems, for example, you wonder, where are these coming from? They come from these small trickles of problems. Ingesting chemicals that you should not ingest affects your kidney, affects your liver, affects your sight. And do you know now, for example, that a lot of people cannot smell as accurately as they used to when they were younger because they have been exposed to so much aerosols, these herbicides, mosquito spray. And the more you use them, the more your sense organs become destroyed. So after a while, you don't even smell anymore. There are some people who cannot smell much anymore. It's just like perfume. If you continue to be spraying perfume, especially near your nose, after a while, you don't even smell it again. So why am I saying this? If you have to rely on when you go to the market and the meat is smelling, don't buy. The beans is smelling, don't buy. The granite is smelling, don't buy. Then you find that the smelling ability is gone in some people.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abuja.
That's of course, very interesting perspective that you have brought. Let's take our last set of tweets before we appreciate our guest for being with us on the program today. Regina Eliaza tweets, the challenge is lack of revitalization of the local government authorities. Now, if they have NAFDAC functional offices with access to local markets, the problem may be tackled. NAFDAC is over-centralized. You can't be in Abuja and regulate Pansia market in Bayelsa State.
And the next one is coming from Usman Banikantu. He tweets, just like the case of flooding management, food preservation hazard and other critical areas require adequate sensitization of the general public, not until when damages are done that we begin to look for solutions. MDAs need to work in synergy.
And that point is re-echoed by Bamidele Oni. Says there's a multiplicity of agencies and regulations in Nigeria, which leads to confusion most of the time. There is no synergy. It is important to note that there are regulations on the use of pesticides. Environmental health officers are government workers that do market inspection. But where are they?
That's right. And the next one is coming from Averob 1. We need the active participation of every Nigerian to combat food preservation hazards in our country. I think sensitization clinics from the secondary schools level to the tertiary and beyond can help educate the populace a great deal.
All right, it's on that note we would like to appreciate our guests who've been with us earlier. We signed up Dr. Vincent Isegbe, who is the coordinating director from the Federal Ministry of Agric and Rural Development. But right here now, our thanks to Carol Obele. She's a pharmacist and deputy director in charge of Port Inspection Directorate at NAFDAC. Ms. Obele, pleasure for having you on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
We also would like to thank Lebrosi Unweabu, who is head of legal, trade policy and advocacy of the National Association of Nigerian Traders. She's a lawyer, by the way. Thanks a lot for being with us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you, Nigeria.
And our deep appreciation to a public health expert, Dr. Isaac Eboja. Dr. Eboja, thanks a lot for your insights.
My pleasure.
All right, so let's go over now to our foreign desk.